welcome back to another week of Full Tuck, the Wingspan podcast with me, Aidan.
And me, Adam. And it's nice to be face to face again, isn't it?
Yeah, we've done quite a few guest interviews recently, haven't we? So it's nice to get back to the old format.
I feel like we haven't done like face to face for a while, and it's just nice to look you in the eye.
Yeah.
Whilst I'm criticising your opening hand, or you're telling me that I'm being an idiot. So it's nice to do that without the lag of the computer.
Yeah.
How have you been, mate?
I've been very well, very well.
You've played a lot of Wingspan recently, haven't you?
Yeah. So 3 flock modes under the belt in the last week. And partway through one of the campaigns with Ellie, which is, very Wingspan heavy, but brilliant. Feel like I've enjoyed Wingspan for a long time, obviously, as we've talked about a lot, but I feel like my enjoyment of it is at its peak at the moment.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think it's the podcast, isn't it? And people engaging with us.
It must be.
Really has increased my love for the game, you know.
Definitely.
And I think it's definitely meant we've got it to the table more as well, more than we used to at least.
I feel like that's spreading to our friends as well. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I feel like maybe it's just us pushing it more, but I feel like when we meet up to play board games,
we need content.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But they seem to be all loving it more.
So
as well,
speaking of requirements for content, how have the flock modes been? I mean, I played one, didn't particularly get on with it that well.
No. Where'd you come?
Might have come last. In that one.
Oh, that reminds me of something else I'm going to ask you in a minute. The flock modes have been great. The flock modes have been really good fun. We've played a slightly different way of playing the flock modes, which I'll talk about maybe in a later week because there's a lot to talk about there. But no, they've been great. I love a flock mode. Yeah. I think it's really fun. I think there's a lot to think about, but actually, and sometimes people find that stressful. I understand.
They're chaotic, aren't they?
They are a bit, yeah. Particularly if you have pink powers, which obviously, if you're playing them well, you should.
Yeah. Especially with the new expansions as well. I think assimilating a load of new birds into the game, meanwhile doing a flock mode, can be quite lengthy.
Definitely, yeah. It can be, but then if you've got time to do it and you can, got the brain space to do it, it's good. And they generate high scores, which is fun.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
What about yourself? Any Wingspan games recently?
Yes, I have been. I know you're going here.
Right.
I know you're going here. So I think I'm going to get out. I'm going to get out the traps in front of you. I wanted to ask you something. Do you?
Classic diversion technique.
No.
Incredible.
I'm taking this on the head. Do you think form is something in Wingspan? Because I always have thought that form is something in Wingspan. And I don't know if this is just in my head, but I'll go through periods of winning the vast majority of games that I play, and then I'll go through dry patches, and I'm very much either entering or in the middle of a dry patch at the moment.
Yeah.
I think I've come last in the last 3 games I've played.
Oh, mate.
And I don't know what it is. I don't know if you just get in your head and you spiral, but that's just dumb. But when we played that flock mode the other day, Ellie turned up and she was like, I've just won the last 6 games in a row.
Yeah, I know.
And then she won that flock mode.
She did,
and
yeah.
so I do wonder if form is something. Am I trying to...
There is something in it, isn't it? And there's no logical explanation for why there would or wouldn't in a game where there is a reasonable amount of luck.
Do you think you go through periods where you make worse decisions or better decisions, for example?
Interesting.
I noticed that recently I have definitely been trying to change the way I played to reflect what other people have suggested I do.
But maybe that's it.
Pivot more towards the wet chains, which is what I struggle with.
Maybe that's explained your slow patch, is that you are in a transition period of disregarding all of your years' experience of Wingspan to base your gameplay and strategy entirely on 1 or 2 YouTube videos. Maybe that'll explain it.
I mean, speaking of, it was great to have Flan on the episode last week.
I was not directed at Flan's videos, which are obviously excellent.
Listening to what Flan did for the opening hand last week was incredible.
Oh yeah.
Simon commented on Spotify. He was saying it was like watching Prime Zidane. Zidane's first touch in like his golden era. And for our American listeners, Zidane was a French footballer from the noughties.
Yeah,
who was
90s a bit.
Pretty good.
Oh yeah, I mean, widely regarded as one of the best in the world.
Yeah. And so watching Flan, like the way that he just manoeuvred the opening hand to get the most out of the frog mouth, which I would never do, was pretty impressive, wasn't it? And
he just gets it, doesn't he?
Yes.
And I think what comes across as well is he's just got a particular way of feeling out a 2-player game. He just gets how to get on top in a 2-player game, which is really impressive. And probably again, we maybe play fewer 2-player games traditionally, and so it's really interesting to see because it's a totally different game, really.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
So if anyone wants to listen to it, it's our episode from last week. We filmed it, so it's also on YouTube.
Yeah.
And welcome to any new listeners, because I know we've got some new ones now on the back of that episode. It was great to hear Flan talk about how he plays the game, but also how he got into Wingspan, the tournaments that he's won, the Discord server that he takes part in running. I mean, most importantly, the British Birds fan pack, which he designed.
Yeah, so cool.
So it was really good to get him over a barrel over that, and see what his thoughts were over how it was made. So I'd highly recommend, if anyone wants to go and listen to that or watch it from last week.
Yeah, couldn't recommend more. I mean, I think we consider ourselves fans of Wingspan, definitely, and have been for a while. But, the chance to speak to someone who's so much more involved.
Celebrity.
Yeah, effectively is, isn't he? In the Wingspan.
We're very lucky to have him on.
So yeah, I mean, an absolute privilege to have him on the podcast. Thank you so much, Flan, if you are listening, for agreeing to come on. It was really good fun. We hope we can get you back on again and maybe set up a game online so we can teach you a thing or two about Wingspan.
Or I can be taught. When I'm in a good run of form, then. Yeah. Not now. Okay, what are we going to do today then, mate?
So we're going to start as usual with our opening hand review from last week, which I think we agree has been a testing one.
Yeah. Might be not much to discuss this week.
We'll see. You might notice the tone of our voices becomes slightly more depressed. And then we're going to do our much touted Q&A this week, right?
We've been sort of dropping, not hints, we've been requesting questions for a few weeks now, haven't we? And thank you everyone who's emailed in and commented and stuff. So we will get through as many of them as we can today, but I'm not sure we'll be able to. So we might actually have to do another Q&A episode another time.
Definitely, yeah.
Perhaps in the new year or sooner if we get it. But we've had some fantastic questions, so very kind of you all to email in. But without further ado, should we get this opening hand out of the way?
Yeah, come on, let's get it done.
Right, so the opening hand this week, it's a 4-player game. You are going third. Remember, you can always see the photo of the opening hand in the show notes. We always upload a link to it. And for those that are new, every week we do an opening hand where we discuss. You get your opening hand bonus cards, the tray, and we discuss how we play it, because we realise that we do play the game quite differently, as we've just already covered. So your opening hand, 4-player game, you're going third. First, American Oyster Catcher, only lives in the wetlands, 2 Witchetty grubs. It's worth 5 points. It's a when played power. Draw cards equal to the number of players plus 1. Starting with you and proceeding clockwise, each player selects one of those cards and places it in their hand. You keep the extra card. Second is the Carrion Crow, which lives in the wetlands or the grasslands. Costs a Witchetty grub or an anything. It's worth 3 points. It's a round end power. Choose any one player, including yourself. Cash 1 rat from the supply on this bird for each skull and crossbones that player has. Bird number 3, Parrot Crossbill, costs 3 wheats. It's worth 6 points. When activated, remove any 1 dice from the bird feeder, then gain 1 wheat from the supply. Bird 4 is the grey catbird. It can live anywhere. It costs a Witchetty and 2 cherries. It's worth 5 points. It's a brown when activated power. Repeat a brown power on another bird in this habitat. And lastly is the Mississippi Kite, which lives in the forests or the grasslands. It costs a Witchetty or a rat. It's worth 4 points. It's a skull and crossbones power, and it's a brown when activated power. Roll all dice not in the bird feeder. If any are rats, gain 1 and cash on this card.
And then we've got bonus cards of the Small Clutch Specialist, which is birds with an egg limit of 2 or less. 5 to 7 birds gets you 3 points, and 8 plus birds gets you 7. And the Anatomist, which is birds with body parts in their names. 2 to 3 birds gets you 3 points, and 4 plus birds gets you 6.
And then in the tray, this might not be relevant given you're going third, but you have the Stubble Quail, which only lives in the grasslands. It costs a Witchetty grub or a wheat. It's worth 4 points. White when played. Discard up to 6 foods. Lay 1 egg on this bird for each discarded food. Next is the White-throated Swift, which costs a Witchetty grub. It only lives in the grasslands, worth 2 points. When activated flocking power, tuck a card from your hand behind this bird. If you do, lay 1 egg on any bird. And then lastly is the New Zealand Scalp, which is from the New Zealand fan expansion. Only lives in the wetlands. It costs a Witchetty grub and a wheat. 3 points, Star Nest, flocking brown power. When activated, draw 1 card from the deck. If it has a Witchetty grub in its food cost, discard it and gain 1 Witchetty grub from the supply. Otherwise, tuck it behind this bird.
And then end of round goals. So round 1 is cubes in 1 row. That's a Jacob Brunner end of round goal. Round 2 is eggs in the grasslands. Round 3 is food cost of played birds. And round 4 is food in personal supply. So go on, Adam, kick us off.
I don't really know what to do. It's one of those hands where you consider keeping 0. So there's 2 ways I go about this. I originally thought I was going to keep just the American Oyster Catcher, and that means I would play it immediately, draw 5 cards, and choose one of them to try and get my game going. But actually, as I read them out, I think what I'll probably end up doing is keeping the Carrion Crow and the Mississippi Kite. Reason for that, the Carrion Crow, choose any one player, including yourself, cash 1 rat from the supply on the bird for each skull and crossbones that the player has. That, I find in 4-player games, often if you get that out in the first round, that will have 10 rats on it, because by the end of a 4-player game, someone will have 3 skull and crossbones powers, I think.
Yeah.
And if you already ensure that you have 1 in the Mississippi Kite, I wonder if that would be the way I'd go. I'd then keep the small clutch specialist, so it's birds with an egg limit of 2 or less. Both of them qualify for it. I recognise you need 8 birds for that, but I can't say I've ever had that bonus card and not scored the higher on it. I feel like the better birds in the game tend to have less egg capacity. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of synergy here as well, in that quite frequently predator power birds have lower egg capacity.
Yes.
And so if you're going to go for a predator power game with the Carrion Crow in hand, then that might work.
Point. And I suppose you also get 7 points for the higher one, whereas in the Anatomist you only get 6 points.
Yeah.
Plus the Anatomist is just constantly full of confusion over what qualifies and not. And sometimes it's just, especially with like the new fan-made expansions, they each obviously come with this little card at the end, which is, these are the new terms that qualify for these bonus cards. Having to go through them and be like, does this qualify or not? It's not worth it. Just go for the egg capacity one. So that's my play, I reckon, but it doesn't feel very inspiring. What about you?
No, I mean, mine's. I'm surprised. I didn't think you were going to go for that. Mine's actually kind of similar. So, for the same reasons as yourself, I'm going for the small clutch specialist. And for what we mentioned about synergy with predator powers, the Carrion Crow, I agree. That's the one that stands out in that hand as being probably the most powerful bird to have in a 4-player game in round 1. But again, when I have that bird, or the Griffin Vulture, which is similar power or the same power, I usually try and aim for predator powers myself. Then, because then at least your destiny's in your own hands, as it were. So I would keep the Carrion Crow. I would also keep the American Oyster Catcher, and that's based kind of on what Flan said last week, which is that whenever you have an opening hand, you're always going to look for where your card draw is from.
Yes.
And actually, there's nowhere else you're going to get card draw from unless you play the Carrion Crow in the wetlands. But even so, that's not a brown power, and I kind of prefer to have it in the grasslands as a result of that. So I would keep the Oyster Catcher, the Carrion Crow, and I would, whilst I hesitate to do it, I would keep the Mississippi Kite as well.
Because it's just only costs 1 food.
Exactly.
Pop it in the trees quickly. It's 4 points.
It's your bonus power. It counts towards your bonus card, and it's also a predator power for the Carrion Crow. It gets you up to 2 food, and so I really don't like doing it because I don't think it's a very good power. but actually, if you say it's a 1 food cost for 4 points plus 4 extra rats on your Carrion Crow over the course of the game, you might get 1 or 2 successful activations.
Yeah, when you put it that way, actually, it's an 8-point bird, isn't it?
Effectively, yeah. So you could, but I say with hesitance because my first play is going to be to play the American Oyster Catcher, and if I get a better forest bird, then that's going to go down in its place.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
it goes to show, because birds like the grey catbird, you just assume are fantastic birds.
Yeah.
But they need to be in the right time and place, don't they?
Exactly. And so, interestingly, one of the things that jumped out to me at Jeff's stats. So again, for the listener who may not have been there for that episode, we did another guest episode with a very lovely gentleman called Jeff from America, who has a quite remarkable set of statistics from his quite wildly high numbers of plays of Wingspan over the years. And he's looked at some of individual bird powers. And one of the things that jumped out at me, amongst many, many things, and couldn't recommend more going back and listening to that, is that the repeater brown powers were not that strong. They weren't as strong as some other powers that I would say are. I think these are generally quite good powers.
I've got it up, actually. I've just got it up. So the average for every single bird of a win percentage, so the average of all the birds in the game, win percentage is 42%.
Yeah.
Okay. The repeater power, 38%.
Yeah.
So it's underneath the average. And That doesn't sound like a lot, but actually it's all reasonably bunched up. But it's definitely worse than average, which is an interesting thought because I would only ever play it in games when I've got a really good brown power already.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've got the Gala there, and I just want to double up on the Gala, for example.
But I think a lot of the time it's... I think that what I like about it is the flexibility of it, right? You can play it anywhere, and no matter where your chain is, it improves your chain.
I was just about to say the opposite. I was just about to say they're actually quite inflexible.
Yeah.
They make you double down on your chain.
Yeah.
It doesn't get you extra resources.
Yeah.
It just makes you do your chain more. And for them to be successful then, you need to have a chain that is already successful in terms of getting you all the other resources that you need.
Yeah.
Whereas, I don't know, let's say it's in the trees and you play a bird which gets you eggs in the trees. Clearly, that's going to be better than repeating a power, which might just get you more cached food if you're using it.
Totally. And I suppose the other thing is there's if you're using it to repeat a power that gets you eggs outside the grasslands, usually they're reasonably limited by egg capacity, so that makes them less strong, and it's an expensive bird. What are your thoughts on the New Zealand Scaup?
It's cool.
Yeah.
I've never played it before. It's cool. But you were saying beforehand that you've used it and struggled with it.
So, obviously...
So just quickly, the New Zealand Scout is brown power, new fan pack, draw a card from the deck. If it's got a Witchetty Grub in its cost, gain a Witchetty Grub and discard that card. But if it doesn't have a Witchetty Grub, tuck that card behind this bird. Yeah,
so it's... guaranteed power in terms of getting you something. It's not going to fail. You're either getting a food or you're either getting a food outside the forest or you're getting a tuck. But both of which I'm going to say is great. The one time I did play it, I was desperate for tucks. Had loads of food. Didn't need it. I just want tucks. Just give me points. And I got food every time.
Really?
So I guess it's one of those powers that could frustrate you if you're wanting one outcome because you've got no control over what it's going to give you.
Yeah. So responses from the public. Most people tend to be doing what we've done.
Yeah.
One notable response is from Joe, who in the same email as asking us some questions for the Q&A, which we'll come on to later, has kept... he's opened this with saying, it's my turn to be an absolute mad lad. So I'm keeping the grey catbird and 4 food, and that's it. Joe's gone on to suggest that he plays a lot of D&D, so he's going to roll a D4, which is a 4-sided dice for those that don't know, and decide that he's going to use that to determine where he plays the bird.
I like his style.
Yeah, it's good. What's he said? Is this the most rational or successful approach to this opening hand and subsequent game? Probably not. But will it be around to remember or at least talk about on the way home? Most definitely.
Yeah, well, look, he's got a point there.
You've got yourself on the pod, Joe, with that. So. Thanks for your comment.
I like that. Well
thanks
done,
for your
Joe.
questions, which we will come on to later, because one of them is very, very interesting.
Yeah, I can see as well that Paul has picked up the New Zealand Scalp, so that's interesting. Maybe because it is a reliable brown power, which is nice. It's also a star nest, which is also nice.
Yeah.
So there's lots of good advantages there. Yeah, thank you for your interaction as always. It's always really nice to get some people writing in about the opening hand reviews, and let us know if you agree or disagree with what we're doing.
It's fulltuckpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
We're on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify takes comments, YouTube, wherever you want to leave your comments. We will look at them and reply.
Yeah, and we'll come...
To most of them.
And we've got another opening hand review at the end of this episode going into next week, so do stick around, have a listen to that, let us know what you think about that as well, and we'll give you a shout out.
Okay, quick break and then some Q&As.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to Full Tuck, the Wingspan podcast, and we are going to do our first ever Q&A
We are.
episode.
Yeah, we've been building up for this for a few weeks, haven't we?
20 minutes into the episode, we're going to start the main thing. So thank you everyone for emailing in or commenting in. We've actually had loads of questions, way more than we were expecting, and so there's no way we're going to get through them all. We're probably just going to have to do a half an hour and half another time, but... I'd like to start with one which really caught my eye from Matthew from Orlando, Florida. Thanks for getting in contact. I'm going to read this out. This is a quote. This is a thought experiment. How would the game change if Oceania had this variation? Points at the end of the game for using the least nectar. Same points as now, but for using the least nectar and second least nectar. This would give nectar pros and cons as opposed to all pros. What do you think?
Yeah, it's cool. It's a cool thought, isn't it? And he makes a very good point, doesn't he? Which I suppose I've seen online as a criticism from some players about Oceania and introducing Nectar, which is that it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no downside to it.
Well, the only downside is you have to get rid of them at the end of the round, but that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And as long as you have, it doesn't take a huge amount of planning to avoid that. So yeah, no, I agree that they are all pros, and if they're in the bird feeder, you're going to pick them up 9 times out of 10, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know?
I also wonder if this is particularly good because definitely the fan packs increase tree chains. There are
100%.
so many fan pack birds that allow you to lay eggs in the trees or gather points in unusual ways in the trees by tucking to cache or something, that it is suddenly making the trees very, very powerful.
Yeah.
And potentially in a 2-player game, you can get those 15 points from the most nectars quite easily.
Yeah.
It is probably a variation that I'd definitely consider.
Yeah.
Because also it would probably make me use Nectar more tactically. I don't really use Nectar tactically at the moment. I don't really look at the other players around the table and look whether I'm beating them, unless it's a 2-player game.
Yeah.
In a 2-player game, I just always try and win at least one of the habitats and get 1 Nectar in each of the habitats, because then you're always going to come at least second, because those are 3 points. But in a 3, 4, 5-player game, I tend not to look.
In round 4, I do a bit.
Do you?
Yeah, because I just when it gets to round 4, it matters. You can maybe swing it a bit more, and it might mean a certain play over another play.
Only if I've got a Nectar heavy game do I look and see, because then I've got enough spare Nectars floating around. But realistically, Nectar for me is a vehicle to get your big point birds out rather than to score the most on the end of round
I see what
goals.
you're saying.
Whereas I reckon if it was using the least Nectar, perhaps I'd try and avoid a habitat or 2 for playing it in. I think more so than I would actually look for a habitat to play it at the moment. So I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I do think it's a cool idea. I do think it's a cool idea. And I think it would... birds like the Spangled Drongo, which obviously we love, which is, a pink power of when another player gains a nectar, you gain a nectar. Suddenly that bird, which on the surface just feels really strong, particularly in a 4 or 5 player game, makes it a lot less strong.
But it's still strong because the nectar is still of like the versatile thing. It's still a wild thing. So, you know what? It makes me think this would actually be a really good variation for a campaign game.
It would, wouldn't it? Oh, that's
for
a good point.
one campaign, they would say, I don't know, there's been I suppose your storyline would be there's been some sort of drought and the plants aren't flowering, so there's no nectar around. And so you'd say you get the points for using the least amount of nectar. That would work quite well. If anyone's making a campaign, take it. You can have that idea for free.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound similar to a round in a campaign I'm playing at the moment. But
my mum has actually made a 3-game campaign, which we're going to play at home over Christmas.
Incredible!
I know,
incredible. We're going to have to talk about that.
Yeah, she asked.
Maybe we'll get her on to.
I think that's a good idea.
Good.
Yeah. So brilliant. Thank you, Matthew, for that email.
Yeah, and Matthew posed a second question as well.
Yes, he did actually. Sorry, yeah.
So Matthew also mentioned. So again, I'm sure many of our listeners will be familiar with this topic of conversation around Wingspan, but at release, many saw Killdeer and Ravens, or also Franklin's Gull in that bracket as so overpowered that some players even banned them. Given all the new powerful cards in fan expansion and the nerf to egg laying in general in the Oceania boards, do you guys believe either of these cards has kept up? Are they now actually overhyped compared to their true power level? Very good question. Very interesting.
Yeah, I'd agree. Matthew, you're just coming up with great ideas here. Yeah. I would agree they have not kept up, what with the fan expansions and the nerf to egg laying in general in Oceania. Thinking about online gameplay, on the Wingspan Tournaments Discord, you're not allowed to play these birds in the first round.
Yeah.
And they did that after a lot of apparently looking through the different data and seeing that, yes, they are skewed, overpowered. I wonder if once the new fan-made expansions get added to that rule should be looked at again, because I don't think they are as powerful. And to be honest, I used to quake in my boots if someone had a Killdeer or a Raven, and now I don't even care.
No, I know. I also,
although we house rule them.
We do house rule them, and actually that's one of the other questions we've been asked as well. So we'll get on to that, but. I think as well, Matthew's absolutely right. The Oceania board has completely devalued them just because you get one less egg per per column space, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
Whereas previously, if you had both of them down, you would pick up 3 eggs and then discard an egg to activate each of their powers, and so you'd end up with an egg, 2 cards, 2 food. Unbelievable. Whereas now, if you just play the 2 of them, you'll only get 2 eggs, and so you wouldn't get any eggs if you activate.
Discarding an egg now is so much more valuable.
Absolutely,
than it used to be.
I would. The counter to that is with nectar in play, almost related to Matthew's previous point about nectars, but with nectar in play, if you can pick up 2 nectars with a Raven's power, and bear in mind they come from the supply, so not from the bird feeder, so that really makes them strong.
Yeah.
And if you can find a way to get both of them down in a Grasslands chain with another bird that lays an egg, for example, or like a tuck and lay, something like the white-throated swift, which is in our face-up tray for opening hand this week, then, which is a unique bird, it's the only tuck and lay that allows you to lay on any bird, so you're not limited by capacity, then that's suddenly a very strong chain again, even with the Oceania boards.
If I use that to pivot onto Emma's email, then a question: do you guys have any house rules?
Yeah, so we do. Okay, yeah. So our house rules do revolve around the Ravens, which we've had in place ever since the Oceania boards came out.
I think perhaps we tried a few games, didn't we? And then we realised, but it said it in the rule book as well.
Yeah.
The rule book said something along the lines of, you can take these out of the game.
Yeah, which we found a shame.
If you think it makes it too expansive.
So
it'd be a shame to cancel birds in Wingspan.
That's what I think. Yeah. That's what I think. So, I mean, we've talked about this before, haven't we? We talked about the Great Indian Bustard and how strong that is.
I know, I'd cancel that.
No, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
So we said it's the bonus card that should be...
I think the combination of the Bustard and the bonus card should be banned, which I do stand by. And we've not house ruled that yet.
Full touch going woke.
But yeah, so we have a house rule that the Ravens should be in the game, can be played in any round, whatever. However, we do not allow picking up nectar with those Ravens. And actually, what we've probably found is we're not playing them. They get thrown away. I do see them occasionally, but only in a particularly powerful Grasslands chain, and that person normally just kind of accepts that they're not going to score well on nectar.
I was just about to say that. They don't win the nectar. With the previous idea, though,
with Matthew's variation.
With the least nectar thing, I'd be getting that bird out immediately because suddenly they're up-powered again. Other house rules, I'd be interested to know how other people decide who goes first.
Yeah.
But what we do is we cut the deck, and whoever gets the largest wingspan goes first.
Yeah, I think that's great.
I mean, it just feels so natural. The game is called Wingspan.
Yeah.
It feels like it's probably the only harking back to Wingspan that there is.
And we've...
I don't know if I've got this from somewhere, or if we just made this up.
Same thought. When I saw this question, I actually... I thought, is this a house rule of ours, or is it just the rule? And I went back to the original rule book to look at what it says, and it just says choose a player randomly.
Does it?
So we've not got this from the rule book.
If anyone wants to claim it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you'd have to give us a start date, because we've been doing this since 2019.
Time, yeah. So. we'll put our stamp on this one.
But yeah, it works quite well. It's quite nice. Yeah.
I think it feels very natural. It feels very normal. And also,
And perhaps one day, if we do a bonus episode, we can talk about the fact that I always seem to go first in Wingspan.
Not this again.
Aiden's face.
So
this hasn't made it on the pod.
I can't believe we've not talked about this yet.
14 episodes.
Adam has a hypothesis that is a hill he will absolutely die on. That if you go first in Wingspan, the chances of you winning are massively higher than if you don't.
Not massively, statistically significant, Aiden. Statistically significant.
So do you know what, Jeff, if you are listening, we would love to know if you can give us some stats on this.
Jeff, you're fantastic. Also, I'm collecting my own stats on this.
Yeah.
I'm happy with my
So we'll see if they match up. But
I'm going to be presenting them at the end of the year. If they're positives, they get on the podcast. If you don't hear it...
if you don't hear anything about it, if they're negative, I will be bringing them on the podcast, so don't worry about that, listener. You'll hear the results of this. But yeah, it made me think about how we decide who goes first in other board games, because a lot of other board games do stipulate a rule in the rule book of how you choose to go first. An example that comes to mind is Ark Nova.
Yeah.
So in Ark Nova, for those of you who haven't played Ark Nova, it's a really good game, and I think it
more complicated than Wingspan.
Definitely is.
But if
lot
you're
of
willing to
parallels.
invest the time,
Yes.
such a good game.
Really fun game, and it's all, it's about building your own zoo of animals. There's a few birds in it, which are also in Wingspan, which is nice. There's also a lovely appearance on one of the cards by Elizabeth Hargreaves, who is in the photo for one of the cards that relates to birds, which is a nice little crossover. But I'm off on a tangent. But anyway, the point is that the way they say how you choose who goes first is who's been to a zoo recently, which is a lovely little thing when you read it in the rules, but in reality, I can't remember the last time I went to a zoo, which maybe is a reflection on me, but
No, same. I also can't remember the last time I went to a zoo.
and so maybe is not the best way of rotating who goes first in that game, because it's usually going to be the same person. So we just end up kind of randomly deciding it, don't we?
Yeah.
So I guess that's a very roundabout way of me saying I really like the way we choose who goes first in Wingspan. It feels like a good randomizer and a way which is.
I always go first.
There's only one way that you could be. You could go first more than everyone
I've got the
else.
mute swan up my
There's
sleeve.
only one way of doing it, mate. 220 centimetre mute swan up the sleeve, and you're off to a flyer, aren't you?
Yeah, every time.
I believe it's 220. I hope I'm right there.
Oh, you know what? Whilst we move on to our next question, how about I just check that one out?
We'll move on to the next one. But thank you for those. Thank you for those questions, Matthew, and also from Emma about house rules. They're really interesting questions. And for the listener, if you have any house rules that you play with, maybe an alternative way of using the Ravens, but maybe rules that relate to other cards or other ways of choosing who goes first, do let us know. fulltalkpodcast@gmail.com, or comment on any of the apps that you listen on, and they will find their way to us, and we'll discuss them next time. So we've got a question from Lisa, who has asked us a question via our Instagram. The handle is fulltalkpodcast. Lisa has asked, have you ever kept 5 birds? What scenario would you do this in? What's your dream opening hand? So Adam, would you give us an answer?
It's 220 centimetres.
It is, yeah, there you go.
Unbelievable.
That's one of my favourite
It's in your back pocket every day.
Exactly.
There's a shrine to it on your bedside table. Yeah,
I live and breathe the mute swan.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for your comments and emails as always. We love reading them. I think my answer is no. I don't think I've ever kept 5.
Okay.
Although I definitely would consider keeping 5 if the time was right.
Yeah.
I've kept 0 multiple times. I think that's quite sexy, Wingspan keeping 0. But have I kept 5? No. I've seen you keep 5 a number of times though.
Yeah.
And what you do, which is a genius move, which I don't think people do often enough, Aidan will keep 5 with the plan that he only actually wants to keep 4 of them, and on his very first go he will get food and he will throw one of those 5 away to get a second food, knowing that it's a nectar.
Yeah.
So in effect he will then get an extra nectar compared to if he'd not kept that bird, when he'd just get a random food like a witchetty grub or a cherry or something, which is really good play, and I don't really see anyone else do it, but you do it not infrequently.
I have done it. Ellie does it as well, and I would say it's a play that when Oceania kind of first came out, and therefore the Oceania boards for the first time allowed this play, because it's the first time in that column 1 you can chuck a card for an extra food. It's probably something I did more. I think more recently I've started to realise that you should only really do it in particular situations, because actually it is a go. You are using a go to get this food. It's almost in the same way that using your first go to pick up a random card from the tray feels like a good thing to do because you're grabbing a good card from the tray, but is also a go. So you should only really do it if you feel like you really need to. But yeah, in a situation where you've got 4 good cards, and for example you've got a forest bird which has a 3 food cost that you want to get down, but you also really want to keep the other birds, then doing that as a way to get yourself on your second go playing a forest bird using 3 nectars to do so is I think a really good play. The other time I would consider it, that I was thinking about, there's 2 other scenarios that I could think I would do it. And one is that if you've got a bird card, obviously this is all with the caveat if you've got lots of good cards in your hand.
Yeah.
But one of them is a bird that lives in either the grasslands or the forest and has a tucker card from hand power. So in order to activate it before early, i.e. before you do a card draw, then you need a card in your hand that you're going to tuck, so you're going to get rid of. So for example, playing one of the 6-point birds in your forest, which is tuck a card from hand and gain X food.
Yeah, which I suppose, because otherwise you tuck the bird to gain the food, whereas the alternative was not keep that bird, gain the extra food, but you're missed out on a tuck there, haven't you?
Exactly, which is the point,
Yeah.
So I think that would be a scenario I would consider it if obviously you have other birds that you like. The other times I've done it are when I've had Benelli's or the Eastern Imperial Eagle in the opening hand.
See, I asked Harriet about this, and she said that's when I would do it.
Oh, really? There you
But
go.
I can't help but feel that isn't a particularly good use
No,
of
agreed.
resources, because your resources at the start are the most valuable that they're going to be at any point in the game. I think what we've learned from Jeff's database is that you should be playing the low point birds early, even if their power is not that powerful, because over the number of activations you'll get across a game, it's better than just playing an American woodcock or a prothonatory warbler early on, because they're big point birds. That is not as good as playing the 1 pointer or the 0 point mallard
100%.
across the game.
Yeah, and I think I've not done this for a while, and I think also probably a bit of a reflection on the fact that Benelli's and East Imperial Eagle are maybe not now as strong as we used to think they were.
Wow.
Yeah.
That might be the hottest take you've ever had.
It's a thought that's entered my mind recently, and particularly with the new fan packs.
That is an unpopular opinion.
I know, it almost certainly is. And I
can see the dislikes flooding in.
Yeah, I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry, but I'm going to stick with this opinion.
Wow.
Because I think that Wingspan is brilliant because almost every bird, apart from Cooper's Hawk, has its place in certain scenarios. I am joking. That's a callback to a previous discussion. I'm joking.
I'm playing a game with you at the moment online where my Cooper's Hawk has got 9 touchdowns.
It's really you're throwing it back in my face. No, I think the vast majority of birds have their time and their place where they are useful and powerful and can get you a lot of points. And so obviously Benelli's and the Eastern Imperial Eagle are easy. They don't cost any food to play. You tuck cards from your hand and they're either 10 or 11 net points when you include the tucks. And also they obviously activate things like your falconer bonus card, your rodentologist bonus card. So yeah, they can be 10 to 15 points, even more in the right circumstances.
I would say another scenario that, and this probably only happens in our face-to-face games, because the way that we do it is you're supposed to decide what cards you're keeping before the game starts.
Yeah.
Before the first player takes their first go. But the way we play it in real life, so actually I suppose this is another house rule that we have, is you don't have to do that. So let's say it's a 4-player game and you're going first, Aidan. You can take your go and then I can decide what cards I'm keeping. That's how we play it. We're not very strict on that rule.
No.
And so I think occasions perhaps where I'd keep 5 would be maybe if I'm going 4th or 5th and I can see that the first few players have already played a couple of quite generous birds.
That's a good point.
Popped maybe a Savvy's Warbler out, or they've played a card which gives everyone a Witchy Grub to begin. Maybe that would make me more likely to keep an extra card, just because I will know because I've already got a free resource, for example. If you've played the American Oyster Catcher and given me a card already, for example, I might keep 5. I think I'd definitely keep 4 in numerous occasions when all of those 4 birds make a chain, which is immediately perfect. And I think about times that I've done that, perhaps. You have the chipping sparrow, which allows you to lay eggs there it is. Which allows you to lay eggs in the trees. That's your first go. Second go, get food. You get the egg on the chipping sparrow. Then next, maybe you have the rainbow lorikeet, which gets you more food in the trees. Lovely. And then you have, say, 2 other extra birds, and they all suit your bonus cards. Those are the times I'd keep 4 or 5 because your chain is already made.
I think specifically with a forest chain, right? Because if you're keeping, so it doesn't work so well with a wetlands chain because you don't have the food coming from somewhere.
No, but what if you've got the black-headed gull in the opening hand,
fine,
and then that's your chain?
So, but that's a one, or maybe a hummingbird that you could put down there.
This is going to be good for our opening hand next week, actually.
Oh yeah,
our opening hand next week, we've actually used the opening hand that I have got in the game. I've currently got online with you and Paul, I think it is.
Yeah, okay.
Because the opening hand, you'll see it for next week. There is the potential to build an excellent grasslands chain and an excellent wetlands chain. And you have to make the decision there and then over what you're going to do.
Wow, blimey.
It's a really good opening hand, but it's challenging.
Yeah, we'll get on to that. That'll be some interesting
maybe we'll
discussion.
do part 2 of this question next week when we talk about the opening hand.
I do just want to mention that we briefly touched on it there, but almost our house. I kind of haven't really thought of it as being a house rule, but I suppose it is, of the way we play, which is you decide. You go round in order, decide what cards you're keeping, and then do your first play, and then it goes to the next person. Whereas, officially the rules really are you choose what's in your opening hand, and then the next person does, and then the next person does, and then you go around and take your first go. I think the way we do it is fairer, because if you're going first, if you're going first and you're doing it where everyone selects what they're keeping and then everyone takes their first go, then going first also gives you the advantage of choosing your cards, knowing what's in the face-up tray in front of you, and making that decision based on what you also have the option to pick up with your first go. If you're say going fourth in a 4-player game, then you're making that choice on what you're keeping without knowing what the trade's going to look like, because things could. Whereas if you wait until it gets round to you, whether you're going fourth or first, and you're choosing and playing your first go at the same time, then you've at least got all the knowledge of what the trays looks like, what the Burfy that looks like, while making that choice. I think that's fairer. I like it.
Yeah.
What are you smiling about?
To me, it sounds like you just signed up to my first player theory, because what you're saying is that the way that we do it makes it harder for the first player to win. And so if my days at the end of the year shows that the first player is more likely to win...
I see where you're going with this.
I've nerfed the first player. We've accidentally nerfed the first player.
I wouldn't go as far to say we've nerfed the first player. I'd say we've levelled the playing field.
You're saying that if we played it more by the by, that the first player would win more often?
Would have more of an advantage, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I would.
We'll see what the data shows.
And I don't think that's the right thing to do. Look, it's not often I...
agree with Adam.
It's not often I maybe would, not criticise, but maybe I would suggest that a house rule is better than the way that the game makers have suggested to play the game, because I think that the way they suggest to play the game is balanced and is based on lots of play testing, and is what we should follow the vast majority of the time. But I do think that the way we play it, makes it fairer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. Shall we move on? Ben sent us an email, which I think has specifically been answered on Facebook, but it'd be nice to talk about the bird anyway. So
yeah.
Thanks for getting in contact, Ben. Ben sent us an email probably a couple of weeks ago now, which was, when playing the Black Rosy Finch, which is from the Birds of the USA fan pack, can we go over the egg limit, or is the score limited to 3? He then sent a follow-up email where I think, who designed the USA fan pack? Was it Travis?
Was it Travis? Yeah, it might have been.
I think it might have been, where the designer commented on his Facebook group question and said it's pretty definitive that you can't go over the limit. But I think it'd be interesting to talk about this bird. So I've got it up here. So it's from the America's fan pack, Black Rosy Finch. It cost 2 Witchetty grubs and a wheat. It only lives in the grasslands. It's 5 points. It's a cavity nest, 3 egg capacity. When played, draw 2 new bonus cards, keep 1 and score the other now. For each point, lay 1 egg on this bird, then discard the scored bonus card. Have you played it yet?
Yeah.
You have?
Once.
Oh, wow. How did it go?
And I've seen an opponent play it in a flock mode this week. And both times, we've not laid any eggs on the bird. Because...
Interesting.
So the time that I played it, I had 1 bonus card that I felt I was going to score really highly on.
Of the 2 that you'd picked up?
Yeah. So I had 1 bonus card that I was probably looking like an 8 or 10 pointer. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was good. And it was towards the end of the game. It was in round 4. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to throw away that many points on a bonus card at that point of game. And the other one I didn't score on. So I unfortunately had to throw away for 0 eggs laid on the Black Rosy Finch. But I felt, even so, you're getting a decent point bonus card.
You've done the usual bonus card.
Exactly. So it's not a bad thing. And then when an opponent played it recently in a flock mode, they unfortunately didn't score on either bonus card when they picked them up, and so had to chuck one away and not lay any eggs and had 0 on the other one.
I think it's quite a fair power. So I think it all feels quite balanced. So the equivalent, Greater Prairie Chicken, cost exactly the same, I think.
Yeah, it's similar.
Sorry, it's 2 wheats and 1 Witchetty grub rather than 2 Witchetty grubs and 1 wheat. But the same number of points, only lives in the grasslands. And that's just got to draw 2 new bonus cards and keep 1. And I'll always play it, feeling that it's quite steep to play. But this almost feels like it's an added little bonus. It's rare that you do score on both your bonus cards, though, isn't it?
Oh, no, yeah. And I think this is along a theme that we're seeing with the fan pack bonus card birds, which we have kind of touched on previously, which is, I just think they are really powerful bonus card birds.
Do you think that perhaps it was made for the bonus cards which are like cards in hand, for example?
Yeah,
which is one that varies throughout the game, and obviously, whereas most bonus cards you slowly accumulate through the game, but for example, bonus cards in hand, there would be points in the game when you score the full marks. For
Yeah,
that,
or food in your supply or something.
Yeah,
So I mean, those are
I think
2
the
out of
food and
50 odd
supply
bonus cards.
specifically says at the end of the game, doesn't it?
Although
But
I think
then
it's been
we'd change
clarified.
it, wouldn't we?
I think it's been clarified to say that you can use it in at time of playing. The other thing that sticks out to me about this card is it's got 3 egg capacity. So the maximum you can lay on your second bonus card, as it were, would be 3.
But that's on purpose, surely.
I think it's on purpose to limit it.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd see about it is so many bonus cards where it's say you score either a lower or a higher score on the bonus card. The lower one is 3.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, and so for me it seems like it's really nicely designed in that scenario. If you pick one of those up and you're on the lower one, which you might be midway through a game, then chucking 3 eggs down on a card, which is 3 points on the bonus card that you're not keeping.
Yeah,
and you can use those eggs.
And you're getting eggs by not laying eggs.
I think in the right situation, which will happen not infrequently, this can be one of the most powerful bonus cards in the game.
So I wouldn't be going over the egg cost. Sorry, the egg capacity.
Oh no,
but still,
unfortunately, nice try, but
yeah, very nice try.
And it would be brilliant if you could, but it's I think it's unfortunately limited by that.
Fine. I think we probably have time for one more question.
Okay.
We've got a question from Joe, which I think we need to dedicate some proper amount of time to. So maybe we should save it for next time we do it. So Joe, we see your question about the upcoming expansions and your new suggested bonus card. I think we'll save that for another time.
Honestly, Joe, that is an episode in itself, and we will cover it soon. I promise.
So perhaps we will just come on to a comment from Jack, which is: if you had the opportunity, what rule changes would you make to the game, if any?
Yeah, interesting question, Jack. I mean, maybe these are things that we've touched on slightly already. So talked about. Go on.
I think you should get an extra 5 points if you fill your board.
Oh no! You have mentioned this before. That's cool.
The game is about playing bird. Well, no, you could argue that the game is about making an engine, but I feel it is an achievement to play 15 birds.
Yeah,
and it'd be nice to get that little reward at the end for just filling the board.
Yeah, my counter to that is if you're filling the board, you've scored well. You've had a good game and you've probably won.
Do you think? Oh,
I would have thought so.
You give me a strange look.
I think more often than not, if you're filling the board, you've created a high score, because it's not just about, like, I'm sure if you specifically aimed for that goal only, at the cost of all other points that you might score elsewhere, you might not. But realistically, if you're a Wingspan player with a few games under your belt, the only way you're going to fill your board is if you've had a synergist game where you're getting, out of habitat resources in chains, where you're putting down high scoring birds, where you're putting down birds which are playing other bird in this habitat.
But sometimes
by
the time to getting to fill your board, if you've only got, say, a space in the wetlands, often you'll be picking up birds and you'll see good grasslands or forest birds that you can't play because it's full.
Yeah.
And so often I just won't fill the board because I won't get the good wetlands birds.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But it'd be nice just to...
You want to give you the space.
Completeness.
Just in case the Atlantic puffin comes up. You want to give him space
Always
to be played.
Always got to leave space for the puffin.
Got to leave space for the puffin. Yeah. Or similar, great and you're busted in the grasslands. Yeah. I think it's a good point. It's similar to the campaign I'm currently playing. It is one of the ways you can score some bonus points in the campaign, which I think is really cool. And in that game where that rule applies, I'm obviously going to be aiming for it. That's not a spoiler, by the way, for those who haven't played that campaign. It's set out at the start. But yeah, it's I think it's a good idea, and I would be interested to maybe house rule it sometime.
We need to make a list of all these new house rules.
Right. We've got a whole totally new way of playing.
There was another one I thought about whilst you were talking there. I was thinking about when we introduced new players to the game.
Yeah.
And Wingspan, less so than other games, but still relevant in Wingspan, is that new players are inherently less likely to win the game just because they don't know what's good, what's not good.
Yeah.
And like in all games, you have to make a lot of decisions at the start which influence your game later on.
Yes, sure.
And without an understanding of the rest of the birds in the game, you don't have a barometer for whether the cards in your hand are good or not.
Yeah.
And so perhaps a modifier for new players to give them some extra resources at the start. And you talking there reminded me of a conversation we had ages ago about it.
We have, with
new players. And I remember I actually looked it up to see if there was anyone does a house rule of it. And there's actually, I think I found this via Stonemaier released oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it now. Basically, any affiliated resource which other companies have made, it collates a list of them and publishes it on its website, which it released a couple of months ago.
Okay, yeah, cool.
And I found something called a Wingspan B mod on BoardGamesForAllAges.com. This is not a sponsored reference, by the way. I've just pulled this up just because I've seen it. And it's interesting. Basically, I think if you want to play the game with children is what it's designed for, but you could also design it for new players. You do your normal setup, and then you give them a card, and there are 4 different cards which determine some extra resources that you get after setting up the game.
Okay.
So, for example, level 2, junior birder, and this is the recommended starting age. So if you're playing with a 9 to 10-year-old, you do your normal setup. Then you get 4 chosen resources, 2 random bird cards, and you get to play any one bird in hand for free, and you get 1 egg.
Okay.
Which sounds, obviously, the child is 9, we don't play with children. I can't tell you how good 9 years old. But
although some of our friends play like children.
Wow. Wow. But for example, the one which is for if adults are playing for the first time, you set up normally, and then the adult will get 2 chosen resources and a random bird card from the top of the deck.
Okay.
Which just gives them a little bit more flexibility at the start of the game, which means the game is more likely to be even. And at the end of the day, it means they're more likely to enjoy it, which is
definitely the point, isn't it? Yeah, no, I like that. I mean, I think when we discussed this before, I think we only briefly mentioned it, didn't we? But something that we might have just come up with live on air, but a suggestion that we'd had for a way to introduce new players to the game is instead of having to choose between the 5 cards and 5 resources at the start, is you keep everything.
Yeah.
You keep 5 cards, you keep 5 resources. Because ultimately, I think that's... How can you do that? If you're brand new to the game and you're given 5 bird cards and 5 resources and you're told, make a decision about which cards you want to keep, how are you supposed to do that?
So what you're effectively saying is that any new adult who plays is the equivalent as an 8-year-old, because that's what this thing would have.
I think that's fair enough.
Sorry, or less than 8-year-old.
Hey, do you know, I think it's fair. I think realistically, if you're playing with someone brand new to the game...
you're just trying to get them involved.
You're just trying to get them involved. And you know, does it really matter if they have a really unfair advantage? Not really.
No.
Like, it's about giving them a way of enjoying the game, introducing them to it so that they can start to feel their way through it, feel what bird cards feel like to play and to use, and to understand what mechanics are good or not good.
Yeah.
And surely the best way of doing that is giving them a flying start.
I mean, one thing's for sure, though. If they went first, I wouldn't be logging that in my stats.
Can't skew the data.
I would skew the data. Of course it would.
I like that. I think that's a cool way of doing it, and I actually think that would be a really good rule change, or not rule change, but maybe additional thing to add in is to.
We can put a link to it in the show notes.
Yeah, we will. That'd be cool.
The Board Games for All link.
And let us know, listener, if you do you have ways of introducing new players to the game? Do you have rule adaptations?
This would be a really good thing as a Christmas gift for people who have friends with children who they want to get into the game.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be nice.
I tell you what, if anyone from Board Games for All Ages is listening,
just
get in contact, because I've done you some work there. I? Right, we've gone well over here, Aidan. I'm really sorry. We should.
We've gotten excited as always.
We've got carried away. Thank you for all the other questions that we will answer one day. If you have more questions, because those were great, and I'm sure there'll be more, email us fulltuppodcast@gmail.com or leave a comment wherever, and like and subscribe as always.
Yes. And we promise we'll do another Q&A, maybe in a few weeks' time, because I'm sure we'll collate another load of questions, as well as some that we've not managed to cover today. So please do let us know. Yeah. It's really good fun for us to hear what you guys are thinking as well, and hopefully it's good fun for you guys to get a bit of a shout.
And also, have a look at the opening hand for next week. It's in the show notes at the bottom.
Yeah.
And I want to know what you guys have done to see if it was different to me, because it is an excellent opening hand.
And hopefully by then we'll know who won that game.
We will rush through the game, actually. I think we're still in the first round. We'll rush through the game and we'll see. Paul, if you're listening, I'll be better at taking my goes. Aidan, I'll be better at taking my goes this week.
He is terrible. But yeah, thank you very much for always, everyone. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please do like, subscribe, follow us on the socials, and look forward to seeing you guys next time. Look forward to seeing you next week, Adam.
Bye-bye.
Ta-ta.